You know, I try to give the benefit of the doubt to a lot of things, where I don't want to look solely at the negative, since that just gets tiring over time and I don't enjoy doing that, especially in a day and age where it gets progressively harder to do that with big Hollywood productions that have tons of money and talent thrown into them, but not really being that great. Though once in a while, I honest to God can't say anything good about a film or show. Sometimes it can be so bad that I can't find any enjoyment within it, and I want to forget that it ever happened. This is what The Matrix Resurrections is. A thoroughly joyless film with no originality, no stakes, no good characters, no good action, and not even a good story. It's everything wrong with modern day movie reboots. I had such a rough time watching this film. It literally took all of my strength to get through it. That's why I waited to watch it until after No Way Home, because I wanted to end off 2021 with a great film, feeling good and all that stuff. So now I have to start off 2022 with a terrible film.
There she is. Total effing MILF.
So, that's great, but it's so hard to describe the things wrong with this film, and what leads it to falling flat on its face. But I'm going to do my absolute best to show you the failings of it and what exactly makes it such a terrible film. Because it's not like other forgettable reboots. Like, do you remember the soft reboot of the soft reboot Terminator Dark Fate? Didn't think so. Because this one does so little, and compared to those ones, it openly mocks itself for being a reboot of a completed series for brownie points, and it thinks it's so smart doing it, but literally makes it look more douchey.
This cannot be another reboot, retread, regurgitate.
Why not? Reboots sell.
But I've got to just do this review because if I keep beating around the bush, I'm probably going to find a sharp object and stab myself in the eye. Now, I don't have a huge connection to the franchise. I've only seen the original films one time before this review, so I went back and rewatched the original trilogy to refresh myself and get a better understanding of the universe. And of course, like many people, I enjoyed them. Hell, I even liked Revolutions a little bit. Though they aren't perfect and they have their fair share of issues, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. So instead, I'll just use that as a segue to how Resurrections can't step out from the shadow of the original film. I mean, good lord, I've seen other films try to trick you with nostalgia, but Resurrections just can't get enough of those original films.
You have to let it all go, Neil. Free your mind.
Because compared to other soft reboots, this one takes the cake for nostalgia overload. You thought The Force Awakens had too many callbacks? This one constantly flashes clips to the old movies, because apparently the audience doesn't understand easy references like Mr. Anderson! And we just have to shove Hugo Weaving's face on the screen and expect the audience to go, oh my god, it's the first movie! But it honestly just takes me out of the film, more so than I already was, where we might be in the middle of an important plot detail, and then it flashes to the original film, because it was just referenced to for no reason.
Billions of people just living out their lives. Oblivious.
Like, why was that there? I think a simple showing of Neo's scared expression would have been enough for people to understand what the movie was trying to do. And look, I don't think using nostalgia and callbacks are a bad thing. Far from it, actually. Because films like Spider-Man Far From Home were able to do stuff like that, but in a good and successful way, because they still crafted something original on top of those references and such. They didn't just say, hey, here's this thing, hope you like it, and then do nothing with it. They did some interesting things with those concepts. And to give a little credit to Resurrections, some parts of it are done kind of well, with bringing back that little girl from the last film to play a small part in this one. So, good job at the very least. And hell, the French douche makes an appearance as a remnant of the old Matrix, which keeps more continuity. But then he opens his mouth.
You gave us space to suck and couch flicks with wiki peasant shit!
And then I hate him. But that consistency is ruined when big characters are barely mentioned, like how the Oracle dies off screen apparently. A character who played a major role in the original trilogy is all of a sudden gone, which does not help when the story of this film is the exact as the original, down to even the same camera shots in scenes. Like, Neo is stuck in the Matrix. He gets pulled out of the Matrix by a crew of humans and a captain who leadership doesn't exactly like, who then have to tell Neo what's going on in the world, then go back into the Matrix with Morpheus, who will then kick his ass in a dojo, then go back into the Matrix again to find someone and confront the system while Neo learns to believe in himself or something. But I don't have a problem with films using exact plots again. Like, look at The Force Awakens. It did A New Hope all over again, but it still set up characters in a future story that would be different from the originals. Here though, it's literally just following Neo through the exact same beats as the first, only worse. Like, a massive issue is how many details are thrown into this first film of a supposed trilogy. We didn't see Zion or the idea of programs in the Matrix being free and doing their own thing, or Smith's rising threat, or the Architect until the second film, because the first was settled on telling a story with only hits of some of those ideas, kind of doing some world building. Whereas here we have to quickly go over how there's a war with the machines again, a new human city that had to be built, and no other ones for some reason. Smith being a huge threat probably going forward. Again, Neil Patrick Harris not being dealt with, machines working with people now. You get the idea. And it just leads to the film feeling bloated and unable to condense everything in a way that can be hinted to in the future rather than fully shown in this film and having to explain it somewhat. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, the action sucks too. For being one of the most defining parts of The Matrix and revolutionary for film in general, I'm absolutely shocked at how bad it was here. From punches clearly not landing, Neo just using force push over and over again, to the god-forbidden shaky cam and close-up shots. It's just simply disrespectful to what the original films did. We went from this to this. From this to this. And from this to this. You get the idea. Also, WB needs to stop stroking their egos. I mean, Jesus, this is like the third time they've done this. Like, we get it. You're a mega corporation that owns a lot of reputable IPs and makes entertainment with only money in mind and brand recognition. But do you really need to be mentioned in the film?
I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
Like, why was that there at all? But do you know what was not there? Original cast members. Neither Hugo Weaving or Lawrence Fishburne make appearances in this film, with only the flashbacks to the original films actually showing them. Which leaves even more inconsistencies, where we have entirely different actors playing them and trying to do impersonations of them, but failing. And by no fault of the new or original cast. I mean, I'm with Hugo and Lawrence for turning down this film entirely. And what are the new actors supposed to do with the material given to them? It's not their fault. And more on the subject of actors, they're fine, I guess. I mean, this is just like every other soft reboot, where the actors all do a fine job, but the material given to them is just bad. I mean, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss just look like they don't want to be there at all. It looks like they're phoning in their performances. And I'm kind of willing to bet the scenes with Keanu being depressed with everyday life isn't acting. That's just how he was when he came on set. And again, none of the new people are to blame or do a terrible job. They just suffer from the original film's problem of not fleshing anyone out besides the main characters. Like, some only get 5 minutes of total screen time. Like, what? But thank God no one died, because we don't want tension in this movie. Because, you know, killing off characters or showing that the threat of death in an environment where machines are trying to hunt and kill you, you know, you don't need tension. But there's nothing more to say. This film is just awful. Where it tries to be deep and bring new lore into the Matrix franchise, it ends up just making you question it and being left confused. Where the action isn't exhilarating or fun to watch like the original films, where the story and characters are exactly the same as in the original, or just made to be dumber, I just don't want to think about this film anymore. And it gets a 3 out of 10 easily. This hurts my brain because of how empty it is. It's like if I were to stare into the void and contemplate my own existence. At least I could probably be more deep and philosophical than this film. But I actually might look at the original trilogy a little deeper in a future video or something that I make. But at the very least, Resurrections did that. But I'm gonna have to do something to wash this film out of my mouth. Maybe there's a good film that I missed last year to check out instead. Ah, crap.